I'm recording. Does anyone object to recording? If no one objects, then the recording will continue. All right, we can see your slides. Thanks, Azam.
Okay, so these slides are already in the research available folder, just in case you need that. And we're going to look at key elements and tips regarding publishing, and we'll be looking at collaborations, quality, quantity, impact, reach, and anything else that we need to discuss today. So the first thing is collaborations. Collaboration is a research partnership, and we do that for various reasons. We do that for to increase knowledge, to enhance our skills in one way or the other, sharing ideas. Idea on the mind is worthless unless we share the ideas with others and get the endorsement of others, and also maybe materialize the ideas. Sharing with others might let us have more concrete collaboration in the form of R&D or something else, maybe a project, maybe a publication, maybe make the idea reachable, accessible to the masses, to the research audience in general, which means that we need to collaborate, whether this is within an organization or outside. So for any, I think, innovation, for any sort of innovation, the first primary thing would be whether do we have any idea or not, and do we have endorsement of that idea. Sharing the idea would be the key when it comes to collaborating with others in any form of research. Through collaboration, we can also learn new tools. For example, if I'm using a particular tool since last, let's say, 2, 3, or 5 years for a particular area of work, for example, edge computing or something, and someone else sitting in Europe or in the US is using something else for maybe any particular scenario, for example, mobility related scenarios in networking, or maybe related to vehicular technology or something else, then through collaborations, I can learn those new tools that in the otherwise case, I won't be able to probably be aware of or be able to learn. In the same way, new techniques and new skills. And also, I think the best thing would be to learn from others' experiences. Someone deployed something in a particular scenario, for example, drones, and they had a particular challenge while deploying drones. In that case, is there anything that we can learn from them and maybe make improvements beforehand while we are deploying something? Let's say if we have budget constraints or something else, or other rules and regulations related constraints, then obviously we can learn from others' experiences. Similarly, research and development joint ventures apply for funding, or in a bit I'll talk about consolidating funds. We can also divide research workload. This could be within the organization, or this could be cross institutes or something else. For example, co-supervising a student and dividing different aspects of the work, something related to healthcare and machine learning. So one faculty member whose expertise are in healthcare can supervise the student in that aspect, while the other one who is more into machine learning can supervise that aspect. In this way, the research work would be more futuristic or more advanced, and the students would be able to learn much better. So this could be another key factor, or one of the major reasons why we need to collaborate, and we should collaborate. And in the same way, once we have research related activities, research work done, anything related to research, obviously we would like to publish that research so that the larger audience can read our research, endorse it, cite it, and maybe enhance it. Maybe I had an idea. I have an idea or position paper. And based on that paper, someone else sitting in another lab, in another country, another continent, may be able to implement that thing, whatever I suggested or whatever I proposed. So publishing research would be really important. On your own, it might not be that simple or easy. If you're a faculty, if you're doing a lot of things, But through collaborations, probably you can do these things much better, more efficiently, in a more productive way. And it's an important aspect of collaboration. We can also consolidate funds. Maybe small funding of 2 or 3 faculty members. If we combine them, they may become more meaningful because we can use them for much better and meaningful purposes. Buying infrastructure, buying some devices or something else, maybe hire a student, supervised and co-supervised by 2 or 3 faculty members, because otherwise you won't be able to hire a student, let's say on your own. So this is also a very important aspect and reason for collaboration. And of course, if you want to publish open access, some domains or some areas, they kind of encourage more to have open access publications. Or today, I mean, we have a lot of journals that encourage or kind of somehow, I don't want to use the word force, but somehow they're forcing you because they're too much into that, and you get forced in the end at times. It depends on your work, or it depends on many other factors. So this could be another reason. But we have to make sure that collaboration is effective, collaboration is meaningful. It means that not every collaboration is useful. It depends on you, it depends on your work, your area, and how you manage things. How much time do you have for collaboration? And what kind of people are working in that domain? Maybe more industry people, maybe more that kind of organizations that have industry plus the research aspect, or those organizations that have more industrial aspect, or maybe purely academic organizations. Better way is to contact well-known researchers in your area of interest so that you are aware of the not just the nitty-gritty things, but also the fundamentals, because they are kind of more fluent with those things that you are doing. Probably they've spent more than a decade, 2 decades in that domain. So maybe contacting them would mean that if you share your idea with them and they endorse it, then the idea would be endorsed by almost everyone. Also keep an eye on who is citing your work. For example, through Google Citations, you receive the alert, and you can see if there are well-known researchers who are citing your work, yes or no. What kind of work is that? Is it directly related to my work? For example, if I'm working in edge computing, fog computing, Internet of Things, what kind of people are mostly citing my work? Are they also purely fog computing, edge computing and stuff like that? Or there are many people who are working in healthcare and they're citing my work? Maybe this means that I should also start exploring things in healthcare and maybe switch somewhere in my career, or maybe enhance my collaboration or enhance my repertoire or something else. This is a key thing. This is important, I think. Cited by well-known researchers or cited by people who are working in any particular domain, or is there anything really unexpected? Cited by someone who is working in, let's say, industries, Industry 4.0, stuff like that. And also we can combine expertise and maybe create synergy. Let's say someone from computer science working in blockchain, someone else working in chemical engineering related to palm oil, and maybe you can work together, join these two things, blockchain in the perspective of palm oil industry or something like that, maybe supply chain, maybe securing the supply chain, maybe having anything related to the traceability of supply chain or something like that. Maybe it's more relevant in COVID times, that you want to make sure that the produce or anything else that I'm purchasing is coming from which particular country or through which particular supply chain. So maybe combining the expertise would be more relevant and more productive. That's also possible through collaboration. When you are open to collaborations, many students would contact you, most probably. and you have to be picky. Otherwise, you lose track. It will be difficult for you to be more productive because a lot of those students won't be that productive. They would be asking you for different help, different kind of help, but you might not be able to do that every time. So you can't be very kind to everyone. You have to be picky. You have to make choices based on your own schedule and obviously your work-life balance. Don't burn out yourself. That's the most definite thing, because otherwise, in the end, maybe after 2 years, 5 years or so, you won't be productive and you won't be. I mean, this is my humble opinion, or this is my personal kind of experience, but it depends on every single person. So you have to see where do you fit. But you have to be in the end picky in terms of collaborations. One tip is always keep your door open. I personally think that there is no need to say no to the people that you think are not really relevant today, because they might be relevant tomorrow. So just say that, again, this is my opinion, just say that this is not really relevant right now, but maybe in the future, I don't have funds for this, or stuff like that. Because I've seen this thing on a number of occasions, that it happens that someone who is not really relevant today might be useful tomorrow. So this is a kind of a tip, I think. Let me see in the meantime if there is any question. Okay. No, not possible, I think, at this stage. So there are negative things as well. It's not always nice to be in collaborations. There are negative things that we have to watch out.
You just applied you just applied your own advice to yourself there regarding Ida. You just did it. Perfect example. politely refuse.
No, I did not refuse, but I think I'm more kind of realistic, or I have the sort of self-realization for this particular thing.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No problem. Do not overcommit. It happens a lot. I think it happened to me on a number of occasions, especially in the past, especially when I completed my PhD, that I used to get a lot of opportunities to collaborate, and I used to say yes every time. And then I learned in the end that I'm overcommitting, and in the end, I'm not really that productive. I'm collaborating with a lot of people, and that's not really helpful. I have to pick the things that I really want to learn, plus I really want to give my society back, pay back. So these are two different things, two opposite things, but we have to create a balance between these two things. Paying back, plus at the same time learn new things. Keeping these two things in mind, we have to make sure that we're not really overcommitting. Many of the collaborators would be in different time zones, and you have to work with them based on certain compromises, including compromise on the time and your own schedule. So make sure that your collaborations are productive. They're not too less, but they're not too many as well. And also, obviously, as I said, when people contact you through their emails or through their contact, you can probably realize, based on your experience, that whether this person is good enough for any collaboration or not. Whether do I have obviously you have that foreseeability to some extent at this point in your career, but you have to look at the time you're going to spend and the energy. You have to foresee this thing, and then based on that, choose the right person. And make sure that you're able to compromise on the things that you know you're going to compromise. The next thing is quality. Meeting standards. If I target a particular venue, a particular conference, a top-tier conference in my domain, a top-tier journal in my domain, IEEE transaction, ACM transaction, something else, the first and foremost thing that I have to do is to read their papers. Without reading their papers, already published papers in that venue, I won't be able to understand the standards of that journal. So there are certain standards, generic standards of the publisher. For example, IEEE has a certain standard. ACM has a certain standard. Elsevier has a certain standard, but still, fine graining everything when you go into the details of a particular journal, then every journal has a different standard. Some journals might be easier to target, the others might not be. So whatever you're targeting, maybe you should pick 2 or 3 publishers, and then within those publishers, you should pick maybe 5 to 10 journals, and then read the papers of those journals. And then obviously you would be able to understand the standards that they have set, what kind of papers are published there, the technical depth in those papers, the style of writing, and sometimes it happens that, or maybe it would be relevant and important that the type of authors that publish there would also matter. Authors from a particular, let's say, continent, or some, a pool of countries. This might also matter at times, depending on where do you want to go in the future, your future job search or your just generic career growth, whatever. While reading top papers, make sure that you're understanding their writing style, not just the technical presentation. For example, a paper on, let's say, resource management in healthcare. So not just limiting yourself to the algorithm of resource management, but also to the way they're writing the paper, the words that they're using, the kind of depth that they are going into for that particular journal. Through that, you'll be able to understand or learn that when I write a paper for this particular journal, I have to keep these things while add these things in the paper, the presentation, stuff like that, the style. A useful tip would be, first of all, pick the best venues. They could be 10 journals, they could be 20 journals as well, of different publishers. And then read their papers regularly. Regularly, again, depends on your personal preferences, your workload, your pace of doing research. This could be maybe once a week, 1 paper a week. This could be more than that. This could be a little less than that. Depends on you. But you should be regular, because this is how you should be aware of the latest happenings, and also your brain would be tuned for that kind of work, and then you'd be able to produce papers in the maybe most productive way as you can. But make sure that you're not really extremist in terms of perfecting things, because there is something important related to quality papers. Timeliness is really important. Of course, quality of research would mean that you have quality paper. That's understandable. But timeliness is probably even more important. So you have to make sure that your work is not just quality research, but also timely. It is possible to have an outdated thing published in a good journal, maybe a top tier journal. It is possible, but it might not give you the reward that you're expecting, or against the efforts that you have made. So make sure that your quality and timeliness has a balance. There should be a certain threshold for the quality, but there should be timeliness as well. Should not be delayed too much. Maybe you can target a tier 2 or level 2 venue, a conference or journal, or maybe a Q2 journal, maybe a Q3 as well. Maybe it is important to publish a new idea in a workshop, which might not earn you any credit, but still you would be able to copyright your idea as quickly as possible, and then extend your workshop into maybe a top tier conference or a journal. But still, again, timeliness is really important. Timely papers would earn you citations as well as reputation, because you would be the leader. Most of your timely papers would be based on innovative ideas, not necessarily improving an existing algorithm, but something new, maybe related to permutations related to a health condition, anything related to COVID-19, stuff like that. So you have to take into account timeliness when it comes to quality, the contribution that you're making. If I am one of the authors, how much did I contribute, and what would be the eventual impact or potential of that work? Any future potential? Is it important today, or is it going to be important, or the importance would grow further in the next 5 years, let's say? So I have to make sure these three factors when it comes to quality. If these three factors are not there or not really balanced well, then the quality would be compromised accordingly. Whatever of these three things is less in your research work. So these three things would be important. And the next thing would be quantity. Is it always good to have several papers, several publications? Not necessarily. But generally speaking, quantity depends on new ideas. If I have new ideas, plus if my speed of producing a research paper is good, these two factors would influence my research quantity, or let's say quantity of research publications. How many per year? How many in the last 5 years? Without new ideas, it would be really difficult for me to produce new papers. Or again, let's go back. In that case, probably my contribution would be low, or the future potential would be less in that case. Again, a quantity versus quality thing that I'll talk a little bit about in this slide. So again, read quality papers and subscribe to their announcements. For example, the content alert of Elsevier, the content alert of IEEE, etc. Whatever your area of work is and whatever publisher is more relevant, you can go to their website and probably subscribe to their content alert. Some of them call it TOC alert, table of content alert. Maybe subscribe to particular journals, maybe 5 of them, maybe 10 of them. And every time they publish anything new, you receive an email and you receive the list of papers that have been published. And then look at those latest things that people are doing. Maybe look at the authors as well. Maybe contact any 1 or 2 of them for potential collaboration. But when you look at those recent papers in top journals, top venues, top conferences, you would be able to find new ideas. Also, you can review papers submitted to quality venues, top journals, top conferences. Again, you have to be picky. At this stage, you can't review papers of any random journal. So you have to be picky, but again, make use of this thing. Most of the papers submitted for review to top journals are quality papers. Even if they get rejected, they have some potential. So you get the ideas. You still have to make sure that everything is privacy aware, obviously, but you get the ideas. And also make the right use of social media and your leisure time. Subscribe to those social media pages that would give you reliable information. There are many pages. It depends on your areas. That's why I did not mention any here. But whenever I open my Instagram, I think 70% of the content is related to technology or future happenings or stuff like that, and I get ideas. And then when I go back and look at the TOC, table of content, or content alert, I try to map those things, those social media related new ideas, new happenings, with the research work, and then obviously you get new ideas. That's a separate thing that in academia it's really difficult to publish papers, at a high speed, because we are kind of overburdened, or I haven't done that since last more than I think 1 year or so, but that's a different topic, I think. Speed of producing a research paper depends on, but again, without compromising the quality, depends on how you approach writing papers. In my experience, I think whenever you read a paper, you should start taking notes immediately at that time. On that paper, or maybe separately, you should have a separate file and write down the name of the paper, title, everything, and maybe kind of have a literature review of that paper, whether it's one paragraph or something else, but you should do that. That way, by writing things in your own words immediately after reading the paper, everything would be fresh. And after reading 10 papers, 20 papers, you'll have a good, solid, latest literature review that you can borrow any time for any future paper. So this would be a quick thing. And the literature would be updated in that case, obviously. And also the rest of the things that I mentioned related to social media and stuff like that. So I think these two things would be key. The social media thing and also the writing the literature in the right way. This would help in achieving the kind of quantity that we're looking for. Again, not compromising on the quality. Again, going back and looking at these three things. So I'm taking my time, Thomas, as you said.
Yes, absolutely. Very useful. Very useful.
Okay, but quantity is not always good. We have to make sure that the too good thing versus the too much thing has a right balance. Quality versus quantity. Everyone knows this thing, but still, I mean, since this is the topics, this is one of the parameters, so I have to say this thing, that contribution is more important. If I'm writing a paper, it happened to me a lot of times that I contributed, I think significantly, but again, at some point I had to ask the first author to remove my name because of certain reasons, maybe because I did not really feel that the eventual goal of this research paper is not aligned to my maybe vision or something, in my humble way, whatever. But again, I think when it comes to quantity, make sure that the contribution is significant and you definitely endorse that paper, whether you're the first author, whether you're the fifth author, or wherever you are, but you have a significant contribution that you can claim anytime, and whoever asks you about that paper, that okay, you are one of the authors in this paper, what is this paper all about? So again, the quality thing, the contribution thing, the impact thing, and maybe at times even if you are senior faculty, at times you should have your own ideas and maybe write, even if it's a position paper or small paper or 3-page workshop paper, but you should be first author at times, I think. Again, depends on every person's preferences, and no one is judging anyone. It's just that probably it's better. Impact is also really important. Research publications impact then depends on different factors, and many of them are discussed already. Number one is timeliness. My research impact would be low if I am not publishing timely papers, if the ideas are not published in a timely way. I should look for existing papers on that particular problem. For example, through the advanced Google Scholar search. Look for those papers, look for anything relevant that you are working on or you are targeting. And then find out that whatever idea you have, is it still a new idea? Can you claim that this is kind of my idea, or I'm among the pioneers? Am I doing a timely research or not? And then do I have quality of writing in my work? Can I show my work to someone of high repute, a person or someone from a well-known organization or an organization that is known for that particular work? For example, autonomous vehicles, then someone from Uber, someone from Google, someone from Carnegie Mellon University. Fitness slash repute. I have personally written, I think, a couple of papers on 5G, but those papers are, 5G is not my area of expertise, but the focus of those papers were that 5G, as claimed by 5G experts, would do this thing. So XYZ would be the use cases of those of 5G. So that was in that perspective. But if you ask me anything related to the deployment of 5G, I should not be writing a paper on that, at least not at this stage. So whatever you're doing, again, your repute is important. Can I call myself an expert of that domain? If someone asks me the question, do I have that repute? Do authors who I have cited also cite my work or not? Are they reading my work or not? I think these things would be important. Eventually, these things would tell me whether my work has an impact on the others or not. Venue is again important. Easily accessible or not? Open access or not? Easily downloadable? Do universities have subscription to that? Some publishers, they have some sort of issues. The others don't have that issue. So it again depends on that thing. And it depends on some countries as well. Some countries do not subscribe to particular publishers. Does that matter to you or not? You have to look into these things as well. Your publisher or your journal markets the papers well or not? They publish the content alert, or they have some mailing lists or something like that. Their website is user friendly or not? How futuristic my work is also is a key factor in determining the impact of my work. A good tip would be multidisciplinary, engage a larger audience. Otherwise, you would be limited to a particular fine-grained topic, and you would keep on working in that domain, and obviously your audience would be, the size of the audience would be decreased with the time. If you're focusing too much on a particular fine-grained topic, then there's a great chance that you won't be able to see a bigger picture. Maybe take a step back and look at the larger picture and find out the ways to extend or push the boundaries of your work. Do not lose the out-of-the-box thinking. Another important thing would be to take on board diverse kind of people, whether they are related to your work or not, including non-professionals, including, I would say, a layperson. I mean, whenever a new idea used to come in my mind, again, it doesn't mean that the way I did that is the best way, but I'm just sharing my experience that I used to share new ideas with cab drivers, with masons, people like those, and including my kids as well. And it always had a bad impact. But still, I used to learn how to explain things to those people who are not really understanding my technology or my whatever jargon is that. But eventually it helps you make people understand what you're doing. Because I personally think that if, for example, I'm working on smart healthcare or smart cities, and I'm not really able to explain my work to an uneducated person, then my work is not relevant to that person. Hence, the impact would be low. Or I'm not really familiar with my own work because I'm not really able to explain my thing to someone who is not really educated or not an expert or not really relevant to whatever I'm doing. So this is an important thing, I think. Every time you have something new, maybe discuss with your family first and see what's the feedback, and then maybe someone who is not really a professional or a completely non-expert. That way you'll be able to learn how to explain things in simple ways. And do I make sense to others or not? You should be reachable. If you're not really reachable and available, people won't contact you. and hence you lose chances to collaborate and maybe lose to some extent in terms of quantity, and eventually as a result maybe in terms of impact. Your online presence is important. You have to pick what kind of online forums are good for you, depending on your schedule, depending on your area of work. Maybe ResearchGate, social media, for example, Twitter, LinkedIn, your personal website, people would find you through Google and then they would reach out to you, regardless of your organization, wherever you're working. I think these things are important. The more you're reachable, the more opportunities you'll have to collaborate with people and advertise your own work, which is important for impact and again for quality and quantity. But doesn't mean that you have to have so many different ways to reach out to people or the people reaching out to you. So maybe pick 2 or 3 forums that best suit you and then consistently be active there and maybe direct people to more relevant forums. For example, if there is a quick question on ResearchGate, maybe answer over there and shut the topic. If there is something that both of you have to share or maybe discuss, then probably until some point emails would be good, and maybe later on you can have meetings through tools such as Microsoft Teams. But you have to pick these things and you have to make sure that you are reachable, but you're not really giving yourself too many options to lose track. That's it. This is all about collaborations and tips regarding publishing and collaborating with people. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Azam. So another excellent presentation, really useful, really full of good tips. So people, everyone, questions for Azam? I think there's some in the chat box. I think Hafiz, I noticed there's one from Hafiz here.
Yeah, what impact of publishing we can expect other than citations? Number of downloads. How many people have downloaded your work? And then maybe you can create a proportion of number of downloads versus citations. How many people are reading my work? They got interested, but then they're not really citing my work. What could be the reason? Maybe my writing is not that good, but my title was really attractive. Yeah, views as well. So views, but not downloads, but then views plus downloads plus citation. The other way of judging impact would be how many of those papers resulted in R&D projects, or they contributed in an R&D application or a funded project, and also parents. That's also important. So these are the different ways through which we can judge the impact of our work or any publication.
Excellent.
And also obviously who is citing the work.
Yep. More questions? Anyone else? Any other questions for Azam?
I actually have a question in chat. I probably missed.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
It's okay,
sorry,
it's okay. Yeah, there's one. I'm just wondering, how long does it take you to? You can see that on average to implement a new idea, do intensive or extensive experiments, validate it, and then write it up as a first draft. I mean, how long generally does it take you? I mean, taking into consideration that you do have collaborators or something like that. I mean, your own experience on that. That'd be good.
Okay, so first of all, sorry that I missed your comment. The first one, be strategic, be tactical, don't burn out. Yeah, it's true. How long does it take? Yeah, it depends on how much time do I have for research. Nowadays, I don't have much time, unfortunately, but in the past, it used to take me, if I'm writing a new paper, I have written a new paper within a week as well, or maybe less than that. But if I take an average, then it would be 1 paper per month. I think this would be a good average. 1 paper per month is a good average. I have done that in the past, but not now, not anymore.
Okay, so maybe just a little bit more details on that, I think. So so how long actually does it take you to implement idea and actually run experiments and validate it? I mean, all that is within a couple of weeks that you can get it done.
The extensiveness should be explained in this case. For example, if this is an IEEE transaction paper with algorithms, then it would take me maybe up to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a decent conference paper, maybe a tier 2 conference paper, and I just have to simulate something, that I have been doing in the past already. It's not a new technology. Then in that case, maybe within 1 month, I can do that. Yeah, I think, did I answer your question completely? Or?
Yeah, yes, I mean, sort of. I mean, then you can do this on the run, like throughout the years. For example, you get one paper done 1 month after that, no break, and starting from with another paper, then we can aim for 10 papers a year, for example.
Yeah, the assumption is that you're only doing research. This is the assumption.
Yeah.
But as a faculty, obviously, you cannot do that. And again, it depends on many factors, whether I'm talking about something that I've done already and I'm just extending my work. If I'm extending and the intensity is not really high, then probably I'll be able to do that within 1 month.
Right.
If the intensity is high and I'm extending, then the time would be maybe 4 months. If I'm writing something new, not existing already, or I haven't done that thing before, then maybe 8 months to an year, or maybe more than that, maybe 1.5 years. Again, depends on the intensity. If it's an IEEE or ACM transaction paper with a lot of mathematics in it, mathematical modeling, implementing my algorithms, then it would take time, because writing the algorithm, devising algorithm on its own is a difficult task. You have to dry run the algorithm a number of times, and then eventually you will be able to implement your algorithm and then find the results, and then maybe fine grain the results, maybe extrapolate something. So new work versus an existing work's extension, plus low intensity versus high intensity.
So in the past, how much do you rely on your student, or you do it by yourself, or a combination of both that would get you into like a timely publications also with quality?
I think more than 60% or up to 70% of my publications are as the lead author. So I've mostly relied on my own kind of work, but it depends on what kind of collaborators or students do you have. I had really good students or collaborators at Carnegie Mellon University, and before that I had some awesome Chinese students in Canada. But other than these two examples, I didn't have really good students, so I relied on my own.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot from you.
No problem.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Can I ask a very quick follow-up from Iman's one? So for the 1 week one, can you tell us how does that one work?
Weak student, you mean?
No, sorry. For the 1 week paper, you said like in the fastest extreme, you even have a 1 week one. So what kind of paper is that, and how do you do that one?
That paper, I think, was related to intelligent transportation system, relevant to driver behavior monitoring.
Okay.
So it was kind of a position paper. That's why it was possible for me to write a new paper or with a new idea within 1 week. Otherwise, obviously, again, as I said, it depends on the intensity, the depth of the results that you have. So the results were, in that paper, the results were related to some existing simulation that we had, and we just changed the scenario in the simulation. So it wasn't difficult. That's why it was possible to do that within 1 week.
So it was a good idea, but everything was in place, and it was a position paper, so that's why it makes it feasible.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. So more questions from people. Any other questions?
Hafid, I have one question. This question may not be directly from Assam, but maybe Thomas from you as well. Because many of you also realize that the the number of good free journals are now converting to open access. And maybe after 4 or 5 years, we will have the target free journals scope narrowing. So, do we have any strategies, any plan in school or at the university level that how we have to handle that?
Yeah, Azan, do you want me to try and take that one?
Yeah, because
Okay,
I don't have an answer for this.
I think Colin maybe also can help us, because I know the UK has a very clear strategy for this. So obviously, I think the idea is that universities are, as far as I understand, universities are going to fit the bill. We thought that we would be able to get right on those licenses. In fact, I've been making inquiries to Andy and RKE, and Andy has been inquiring to the UK and so on. And as a first instance, we will not be able to ride on those university-based licenses that basically allow staff to easily publish in open access. However, it's an ongoing problem, and it's going to be a huge problem. I completely agree, and in fact, I disagree with the whole publishing model. I think it's crazy. But the point is, the university is behind it. Andy is behind it, and there will be. I'm pretty sure there will be a solution. I mean, it's completely untenable for us. So you know, I cannot believe it will be the case that we will end up being you know, sacrificed because of this. But all I can say right now is that RKE is strongly looking into that. Colin, would you like to make some comments on that?
I think that's a good summary. I mean, I think, you know, yeah, clearly the university is you know, recognises this shift in publishing practice. The you know, increasingly you know, these kind of gold open access routes are common routes publication and so on. I don't, as I say, I don't know the. I think you know more about the details of how this works in terms of the licensing. As you say, I think the university does subscribe to a number of you know, licenses where you can you know, at the UK campus where you could, they've paid a certain amount to allow anyone to you know, to you know, just submit as many papers as we want to things from that publisher. But I don't. You say that doesn't apply. Those licenses don't stretch to your campus. No.
Oh yeah.
That's a pity. Perhaps that's as you say. You know, that's something to follow up on. I mean, I know certainly there is. You know, both. You know, there's a bit of a combination of central and school level funding to support this. Again, I don't know how that works in terms of your campus, but we can follow up on that and talk about that, and you know, put pressure where needed to try and do that, because I think it is, you know, it is important that we, you know, make these impacts in the way that we think is important for our best work. You know, certainly, you know, there may have to be some, yeah, selectivity about what we support, but you know, I would be, you know, I'd be reluctant in the longer term to, you know, to be saying, you know, even though the costs of these are large in some ways, the costs of them are relatively small in the greater scheme of things. You know, it seems, I always think it seems churlish to say, you know, we've spent, you know, so much on salary costs and equipment costs and so on, and then we say, oh, and you know, you can't publish in the right place for the sake of a, you know, an additional fee. You know, it's quite a small part of the whole package that the university is spending to create that piece of work. So whilst I don't think we can be, you know, we have financial constraints, but I don't think, you know, we should be working towards a position where, you know, our best research is published is supported to be published in venues like that.